welcome to Synchronicity. Sorry I didn't get it out Monday. You know, shit happens. I was going to do it, but I didn't. That's my excuse. How's that for an excuse? How about I was on a emotional high from the Dolphins being a legitimate Super Bowl contender? Can we talk about the Dolphins in the beginning of the episode? I think we can. Guys, I've been watching this team for 30 plus years. This is the best team I've ever seen. I know that can sound confusing if you don't follow any of this, and some weeks I come on and I act like the sky is falling, but holy shit, we got a squad. I love our coach. I love a QB1, Tua. Oh my God, I love him. We're going to make a run. I am going to go to playoff games if they have home playoff games, which it's seeming like they got a decent shot at doing here. They're leading the division. It's Fun Times USA. I'm ecstatic. I got nothing to complain about with the Dolphins right now. Sure, there are injuries. Sure, we lost another defensive lineman in Emmanuel Ogbah. What are you going to do? It happens. It's football. They got a bye this week. I can relax. The bye week in football, think of like your life if you're just getting slammed over the head with shit over and over and over and over, and then you just got a respite. That's what the bye week is in football. It's not even for the team physically. That's great too. But for me emotionally, I need a break. I need 1 week off during the season where I can just relax. And that's this week. So hopefully that's what this week will be for you too. Today, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, some of it overtly spiritually related. I want to give you a recommendation before I go any further. Jessa Reed, good friend, started a new podcast, Spiritual Bro Book Club. Go check that out. I don't know how much she's actively promoted that outside of her immediate audience. She starts a new podcast, I feel like every year. She has, since I've started Synchronicity, I think she's had like 5 podcasts. All amazing too. More power to her. And she was speaking about something that I don't know how many people resonate with this, but she was talking about how, you know, she starts a lot of things and doesn't always finish them and like gets really excited about stuff and then kind of loses interest on various things. That's my MO too, right? In human design, I think that's just like a generator type vibe. And if you are one of those people, it can take some time to accept that about yourself and also not really judge yourself for that type of behavior, right? It's okay. It's not a flaw. People need those spark people to get things going. And sometimes you often need to be paired with other types of energies to get it across the finish line. That goes for anything. That goes for just stuff in the 3D world that you may be doing logistically. It goes for manifestation, imagination, all of this stuff. Like, surround yourself with as many energies as you can. And when I say energies, it doesn't have to be corporeal beings. It doesn't have to be physical beings. This could be spirit guides. This could be archetypes. This could be energy. Whatever it is that kind of gets you over the hump to kind of find the right synergy to get your shit done. You have dreams. You have aspirations. You have intentions. Don't deny them, but don't flog yourself. You know, I don't say flog yourself very often. Don't flog yourself if you are not achieving your goals to the degree that you feel like you should. Now, a nice segue there is I've tried to hammer this home as much as possible. I don't say this from an authoritative standpoint. I say it from a perspective of this has worked for me and I've seen its actual power. Really just pay attention to your mental internal conversations with yourself. They will reveal more to you about how you actually feel than what you can trick yourself into believing that you feel, right? It's like if you ever say, I'm wealthy, I'm abundant, and your bank account says like $4 or like you're overdrawn. Like that is a jump that is difficult for people to actually believe. And when you start seeing how you react to certain things, well, should I buy this thing? Do I have the money for this? Is this something I can afford? Those types of questions are much more revealing into just kind of like rote memorizing and repeating back that you're wealthy and you're abundant. That's not going to do shit for you. That's like the people who pray and are praying to an external God, thinking that this benevolent being from outside of them is going to bestow any type of boon upon their life. Cool story, bro, but not actually how things work. It's you doing the stuff, right? It's always you. I don't need to say it anymore. How many fucking times am I going to get on this podcast and say it's always you? It's always you, especially when it feels like it's not. That doesn't mean we don't interact with other people. It doesn't mean we don't consider their opinions and perspectives and have the ability, ideally, to see multiple perspectives. That's like a huge part of kind of expanding your awareness, is being able to take on sometimes contradictory perspectives, right? I got a ton of shit over the past couple of years, especially when Trump was president, because I could acknowledge aspects of his being that I found funny or ridiculous or even competent at times. And that was anathema to people who hate this being. It is impossible to find any semblance of good in someone so horrible for people. So I'm comfortable holding the contradictory opinion that this guy is a total douchebag, but also kind of funny and cool at times, right? And I know that can be difficult. If you get to the point where you can share contradictory opinions and not be kind of totally shifted off your mark, that's a sign of progress. That's a sign of growth. That's a sign of expanding awareness. Why do we want to expand our awareness? Because we want the realms in which we live in to reflect the best of our nature, right? We want to be kind. We want to be generous. We want to be unconditionally loving. We want to be fulfilled. These are ideals, right? Like platonic ideals, the maximum essence of something, and we want to express those more often than not. But we live in a world of duality where that is not ever going to be a permanent state. I don't want to say not ever. Very difficult in a dualistic world to have a purely unity type of consciousness experience forever. It can be for even extended periods of times, but we're here for a reason. We're in duality for a reason. We might as well work with the parameters that we've been given in terms of doing what we got to do. Hopefully you've been not too fucked the past couple of months, couple of weeks. There's a lot of energy going on around confrontation. You're really being asked to kind of like question who you are at your core, which is why I'm here on a podcast trying to remind you, you are God, you are divine, you are an omnipotent being. That's a perspective that I feel is worthy of being shared. The second I feel like everyone gets it or there's no need to kind of rehash this stuff, I'll shut the fuck up about it. There's plenty of other things for me to talk about, don't worry. But I still get the sense that there's massive externalization, nothing just to do with the spiritual realm of like media, but just everywhere. We're seeing this fracturing of just like stability in so many different places that it's like we obviously acknowledge that it's a theme now. What do we do about it is the question, right? You can do whatever you want about it. For me, what I always come back to is what can I do to strengthen my conviction, my faith, my belief, my knowingness that things are always working out for the best, even if they don't seem like it, and how to deal with questions where you're like, oh, that's just a defense mechanism. That's coping. That's not really progress. That's not really growth. How do you deal with these types of questions? Where are you picking them up from? How does that work? Where did you gain these perspectives? Was it from a family member, from culture, from friends, from whatever it is? Like, it's worth getting to the bottom of where kind of some of these ideologies, beliefs, ideas come from and just trying to suss them out. Like, is this something you actually want to engage with, right? It's like if you're holding two things and one is like this beautiful thing that you love so much and one is like poop, you may want to put the poop down. You might want to put the poop down. You might want to hold the poop. Maybe you're into poop. Maybe you're into scat porn. Maybe you like someone taking a dump on your chest. I don't know. I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying if you don't want to carry around poop all the time, maybe put that down. Maybe wipe your hand off, right? Maybe go use some antibacterial spray and soap and, whatever, and get it off of you and don't have literal feces on you. Running with the feces metaphor. So yeah, I know things are crazy. I do get the sense that we are turning a corner, not in the sense of like things are better immediately, but that what feels like chaos, what feels like turbulence isn't just there to be a permanent aspect of reality, but is serving a frictional function, right? That's cool. Frictional function in terms of like helping us see where we need to work on ourselves, where we need to kind of engage with the world in a way that makes us feel fulfilled and content. I personally have been, I hadn't had access to these states being kind of just like randomly pop up. But in the past month, I can say that there have been periods where I feel extreme gratitude just for my situation in life, just for my family situation, my health situation, my life situation, my love situation. Like, all of this stuff is obviously accessible to you. You have enough to be grateful for. Don't question that. But the ability to feel that and kind of spontaneously feel that, we don't always have the direct pipeline to. But I can say that those experiences for me have been proliferating. They have been getting more common. And when I sense them, I try to live in that space for as long as possible. Last night, in fact, I was just like overjoyed by seeing how well my two sons from a previous marriage get along with my son from my current marriage. Like, they really get along well. It's crazy. I was not a great sibling to my younger sister. The idea of being nice to your sibling at a young age is a foreign idea to me. It doesn't make sense. So when I see my kids actually being like wonderful angels to each other, it's a very heartwarming thing. It gives you something that you can feel good about. You should have things in your life that show you things you should be grateful for, right? If you feel like you have nothing to be grateful for, first of all, please get out of that mindset as rapidly as you can, because it is going to start creating aspects of your reality, not that you're not aware of this, that are unpleasant to experience, that are probably a little more suffering than you need to go through. So, try to shift out of that. But there are always things you can be grateful for, even if you're just walking around, breathing, having a good time, like not even having a good time, just base level, like you exist and you're alive. It's a pretty beautiful thing. You have you are not bound by anything. Let me try to make this as clear as possible. We often feel that we are bound by circumstance and situations and relationships, right? We're tied. We can't do that. We can't do this. That's not true. You always have the ability to make changes in your life in a positive direction or even in a negative direction. You do have the ability to shift your energy. Now, you may feel that that's culturally inappropriate. It's ethically inappropriate. It's morally inappropriate. All I can say is this is, listen, I could have stayed in an unhappy marriage and subjected my kids to fights and anger and bitterness, and that could have been my life. Or I could have made the difficult decision, which I did, which is I don't think I should be in this relationship anymore. It's affecting everyone negatively. And I was flamed and continued to be flamed by various circles to this day about leaving a marriage with two kids, one who was at the time, we separated when he was 4 months old. That doesn't sit well with a lot of people. But for me, what was I going to do there? Be bound by expectations or a warped sense of ethics or morality to stay in a situation that was necessarily going to cause more harm, and especially to young children? Like, no. So I had to put on my big boy pants and say, fuck it. This isn't going to be easy. This isn't necessarily going to be fun. It is going to cause pain and suffering, and it is going to cascade, and it is going to hit my kids and people I love. But I can look a little bit further down the line and know the kind of felt destination we'll arrive at, and that's what I have to do. You need to be prepared to kind of take that step as well, right? And I just want to be clear, I don't say this stuff like I have all the answers. I would never want it to seem like I have all the answers. However, I'm not afraid of saying at this point in my life, I got some answers, and at least the answers I'm offering, you can test. You do not ever have to take my word or anyone else's word for anything. In fact, don't ever do that. It's stupid. Even if it's the best fucking life-changing advice in the world, if you're just going off what someone else is saying, that is not going to be stable. It's not going to be a stable platform for you to exist on because, again, you're externalizing your inherent power. Even if the person is the most benevolent, saint-like, wonderful person in the world, no, you have to figure it out yourself, and you have to trust in your own ability to do that. So, again, I'm not saying this from a place of listen to me. I know what's going on. I'm so smart. I got it all. No, I don't. But I definitely have been able to make major improvements, realizations, change circumstances to be happier in my life, which heretofore, until I started employing some of these practices from a very conscious and kind of directional with conviction type of way, was not getting those results. They would seem random. They would seem left to chance. They would seem left to the bridge of incidents or circumstances that were going on in my life or around my life. And of course it feels like that. When you don't have a clear direction and trajectory, what do you think your life is going to feel like? It's like you're going to be whipsawed this way and the next way and all these ways. So, yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about this FTX situation. If anyone, you probably is bubbled up to the most people's consciousness now. FTX was a crypto exchange. I never used it. Thanks, New York, for not letting me use it. I say that in sincerity because they stole everyone's money. And in particular, there's this character who is the head of the exchange, the CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, who is, just to be clear, emerging a amphetamine junkie who's probably a sociopath. Like, he's still tweeting out. I mean, this to put this in perspective, a lot of people kept their full balances of their crypto portfolios or even stable coins or even US dollars in FTX, kind of like a bank account, because they offered lots of things you could trade, futures, perpetuals, all of these things. So people just left their balance on there. They ran out of money. There was a bank run, right? And people can argue about why this started and when, but basically what they were doing is they were taking people's money where they deposited it in the exchange and then go and using it to trade for their own hedge fund. Alameda was their hedge fund. And they lost it because they're morons. Because somehow, me, who will admit, not a great trader, not my best skill. I'm not scalping. I'm not fucking finding my entries and using stop losses. But somehow I've managed to outlast massive, fully capitalized to crazy billions of dollars. I've outlasted a lot of these funds and places. Why? Not because I'm so smart. Because I just don't be a full-on idiot. There are times to be on full. Don't use 100% of your capital to be an idiot. Use some. Be a degen. Do what you need to do. I am never, far be it from me to ever tell someone not to be reckless at times with their money. It's not my role in life. But Jesus fucking Christ, you're gambling with other people's money, and it's showing no remorse too. So this situation to me is like a crystal clear example of what I meant last week and the previous week, talking about this kind of shift from the collective will support you, the collective will help you, and realizing, probably not. Can maybe provide some bulwarks or like some support at times, but this is, again, your responsibility. Placing your trust in centralized institutions. This is also why I'm very much into crypto, at least some crypto, because of the principle of decentralization. It's a buzzword and you hear about it a lot, but I do think it's critically important. And one of the reasons it's critically important is it really places the onus and the responsibility on the individual. A network is formed via decentralization. That is literally what it is. It's many different individuals forming a network, but there is no centralized locus of power. There is no place where, they took all your money and ran away with it. It's you. It's where you place things and where the trust you decide to, invest with protocols or coins or tokens or whatever you're doing. It's your decision and it's your custody. Right? I tweeted out a bunch of stuff this week about kind of principles of crypto. I'm not going to go into that. People know by now that everyone goes through ups and downs in crypto, including myself. I was doing incredibly well in the bull run, but so was everyone. That's the thing. Don't fall into the trap of thinking you're a genius when you find yourself in the middle of a bull run and things are just going up. This has happened to me twice in my life actively, where I've been part of cycles where it's just up only and it's nuts. The worst thing you can do is think you somehow have found an edge or that you somehow are outperforming the market. You're not. You're just riding the waves. That's all you're doing. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh man, I'm so fucking... Listen, if you want to play that role and you want to actualize that for yourself and you want to be that dude or that gal or that whoever, or that raccoon, whatever it is now, the pronouns, go for it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. There are people who are excellent traders who are really, really good at this stuff. To me, the work required, the imaginal effort required to be that type of person and play that role isn't interesting enough for me to kind of assume that. But if it is for you, by all means. But most people are not going to want to kind of fall into that identity, right? This collective is just like these, they're not going to help you. They're not. The sooner you realize that, the better off you will be. The sooner you take personal agency and responsibility for your well-being as an individual, the better off you will be. Like, that is literally what the name of the game is now. And that can look like anything you need it to look like. That doesn't mean you are isolated like a hermit and never interact with anyone and fuck everyone else. It's you against the world. You can only count on yourself. Yeah, that's one way to go. It sounds kind of lame. It sounds kind of like 1950s John Wayne stoic, whatever. I guess if you're like a bro, you know, who's about to shit on people who lift weights. More power to you if you lift weights. But, you know, it's like this, like, bro mentality, like 4chan, like Reddit bro, like, oh, like, let me optimize my life with nootropics and vitamins, and I'll just get this thing and I'll pump in all these nutrients to me, and then I'll be an optimized human being. It's like, all right, is that really going to change things? If you start souping up the external aspects of your vehicle, of your car, does that make the engine better? No. It doesn't. It's just the outside. So I really do believe, that was a weird sound. I really do believe that your faith and confidence in things that will heal you or make you feel more fulfilled are ultimately the only things that are going to actually determine whether that's true. It's not the thing itself. It's not the vitamin you take. It's not the weed you smoke. It's not the food you eat. I'm not discounting these things as powerful modalities that absolutely augment and impact your consciousness. It's just that's not actually the thing. Your consciousness, your sense of I am has to self-identify with a healing principle to experience that healing. And that's just the way it is. And this is not necessarily at odds with modern science, but it's not fitting in perfectly, right? That doesn't fit in well with vaccine mandates. That doesn't fit in well with, industrialized medical system that deals with symptomatic relief rather than kind of holistic wellness, right? And that cuts in every realm. It's not like, oh, science and the medical industry are bad and everything else is good. That goes for someone who just thinks that crystals are going to heal their entire life. Crystals are great. I love crystals. I love gemstones. They're amazing. I truly identify with that modality. But like, they're not going to do it for you. It's your belief and your access to the energy that may be shown through an external form that really is the healing, allows the healing to take place. And I do think we are in a pretty substantial period of healing right now. That's what it feels like. And healing can be painful. It can be filled with things that are difficult, including realizations about yourself and about just how the world works and how reality works. It doesn't always have to be pleasant. But I think we should strive for it being as pleasant as possible. I definitely think that's a worthy goal that's having. But to get back just to this crypto stuff just a little bit, this was a massive breach in trust and ethics and morality. And ethics and morality are weird, right? Because ultimately there is an element of subjectiveness to them. You can say there's a universal morality, and I certainly believe there's higher dimensions and experiences of certain forms of ethics. But again, ethics are based heavily in duality. And duality is just one aspect of reality. There are multitudes of realities that we experience. And you have to take into account that duality comes with its particular wrinkle of what ethics are going to be. So whereas you may see something that's morally reprehensible, someone grew up in a completely different culture and a completely different way of being, they may see that as very normal. And they may see something you're doing as morally reprehensible. So the ability to acknowledge that there isn't usually some pure sense of this is right and this is wrong all the time. Now, there may be for you, there may be for collectives, but it's a sticky, weird area because you don't typically have the broad vision to see how everything impacts everything else, right? A good example of this is There's this great story that Neville Goddard tells where, his brother was in town and they wanted to go see this play, Aida, and the tickets were all sold out, but he still went one day to go get it because he had imagined he was going to get the tickets. And the way he ended up getting the tickets is there was this guy who was basically trying to scam the ticket teller into giving him more money back than he had paid. Neville saw him do this and yelled at him and basically caused the scene and made the guy give the money back. And the teller was so grateful that when he asked for tickets for Aida, like really primo seats, the guy gave it to him. And he said, listen, you can't condemn the thief in this story, in this incident. He is playing a role here that was critical for me achieving what I wanted. So I don't look around and say to this person, oh, what a piece of shit. This guy was trying to scam this teller, like what make an honorable living. But if you truly believe that the things you imagine and believe with conviction are destined to play out on this screen of reality, you don't know who's going to have to play those roles to get you there. You don't know what's going to happen in terms of, the impact on your reality screen of what circumstances and incidents need to arise, and nor should you. That would be overwhelming and probably not very fun. Probably not that effective either if you had to be aware of every single thread that connects. You would go crazy. That would be psychosis. So we try as best as possible not to condemn perspectives that we don't understand or acts that we don't necessarily agree with. This is not me saying, hey, like maybe Jeffrey Dahmer was right. Like that was just his bag, dude. Maybe Hitler was right. Like, yeah, I guess he really should have done genocide. It's just be careful with your condemnation internally. Externally, I mean, it should go without saying it's a weaker force, right? It's like the weaker electromagnetic force and the strong electromagnetic force. That's the weaker of them. Internally is what I'm talking about, not condemning people, right? Obviously, voicing it externally is going to have some impact on your internal belief, but don't just try to pull back the judgment as much as possible. You will feel better. It is a heavy burden to carry around constantly judging other people. Take it from someone who has done this for a large period of their life. It is a burden. You will feel literally lighter when you are not. It's like, think of there's like cords between people, energetic cords. When you judge someone, think you have like this crank and you can tighten the cord and tighten the cord and tighten the cord. That's what you're doing when you're judging someone. You're tightening the cord. It is so taut. It is so like you can barely move without pulling against this other being. And that's not what we want to be. It's like being on like an overly crowded dance floor. You don't have any room to move and feel and be, right? So you don't want to do that. I recognize that when I say you don't want to do that, like the chances of everyone eliminating all of their preconceived judgments or just conceived judgments is unlikely. Just be aware of it. This again goes back to this mental chatter that we have in our head. The goal is not to eliminate that chatter. I do not find that to be remotely realistic in the way that our lives are structured, right? Meditation is wonderful. I think there are tons of benefits that you can get from it. I do not think one of them is clearing or purging your thoughts. It's not a thing. You will always have emergent thoughts. That is this reality. I think it's a massive misconception about what meditation is. It is not to remove and eliminate the activity of the mind. It may be to quiet it down so you can notice some things, but again, you will be noticing things. You're not going to shut it off. That's called like death. That's another aspect of reality that we will all deal with. But it is not, the goal is not to just shut down this thinking faculty. In fact, that awareness faculty is what gives you life. It's what gives you experiences. It is the power that you can then use and then modulate and tweak to experience the things that you really have as desires. And again, the function of a desire is a springboard towards realization, right? Enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, awakening. You have desires for a reason. One of the worst things you could do is think that your desires are invalid. Don't do that. I'm like, I don't want to be an authority. I'm not going to tell you. And then I'm just like, don't do this. Don't do that. Definitely do that. I think you know the spirit in which I kind of like talk about these things. And I mean, I hope everyone realizes at this point, This podcast is essentially me talking to myself as much as anyone else. That's why I'm able to talk off the cuff like this. If I had to think about speaking to an audience and what I'm going to do for their well-being, like, holy shit, I don't want that responsibility. But I do know when I experience things, anything that I stick with that has an element of consistency into my life, I can say, okay, valid thing. Because there's not a lot of things that I stick with forever in a consistent manner. This perspective is something that I've always felt my entire life as I kind of chipped away at the marble structure of what it was, of what the imagination was, of what consciousness was, of what I am is, right? Then once the statue was revealed, and I have this amazing statue, it's like the David of Michelangelo, like, oh, okay, I'm not going to dismiss this anymore. This is actually a pretty beautiful and amazing work of art that I think has merit and validity for everyone, right? I feel it kind of as an obligation to speak about this and embody it as much as possible, right? This is also one of the dangers of like really getting into spirituality or ways of being or modalities. You don't want to wear this as your identity. These are things that we work with. They're like accessories. There's things that we can kind of like self-resonate with and self-identify with. But like this, you do not put on, don't be the person who gets into Buddhism or other type of religion or theosophy and like you start dressing all different and weird and you put on funny hats. Like if that's your bag, if that's your thing, man, and it's a self-expression, go for it. But like, that's not it. That's not it. You don't need to look a certain way or speak a certain way or put an affect on your voice. Oh, yes, we shall be enlightened. It is a wonderful thing we are experiencing. Don't do that. Don't do that bullshit. Be yourself. Be your authentic. And if that's your real voice, I'm sorry. But if like, you don't have to try to be anything else that you're not. Because if you want to experience something that you are not currently experiencing, you appropriate it. And you would make the necessary changes internally without effort to become and embody that person, right? That's the point. You don't have to like give yourself a nudge by wearing like bracelets and, being a weirdo. Like, don't do that. Also, like, if you identify too much with any like, outward expressions of spirituality, trust me, someone will come along who you have distaste for, who starts doing the exact same thing as you, and you'll be like, fuck, maybe this isn't as cool as I thought it was. How's that for non-judgment? But it is just kind of a truth of how we work internally and how we summon change and how we kind of get comfortable with change and exist in chaos when there are chaotic times, but also have the ability to relax into peace and understanding and knowingness. I don't want to say too far at one end of the spectrum, right? It calls for different things. There's different times for different stuff. If like you're in a very hot climate, you probably don't want to be wearing like a parka and a heavy jacket and gloves and mittens and a hat. You're going to be uncomfortable. You probably want to be like, in a bathing suit or go swimming. So like there are different times and places for different sets of ways to be. The idea is to be flexible and adaptable enough, but have a strong enough core where like there's stability, right? That's what we're kind of going for in terms of stability. Like we're stabilizing states of consciousness and getting familiar with how to do that, but also not getting too rigid about it, because those either ends, too wobbly, too loosey-goosey, and too serious and tough, are not effective ways of being for extended periods of time. You want to find that kind of like, again, Page of Cups energy. Curious, playful as much as you can. And if you feel anything but curious and playful, figure out how you're feeling. Try to like go into yourself and be like, how am I feeling right now? It's always a valid question to ask how you're actually feeling. Do not feel that if you find something uncomfortable, unpleasant, that is just where you have to stay. That's not true. The simplest thing as going to sleep at night, feeling a certain way, creating a scene that has the tones of reality that you can feel and embody, and just going to sleep. That's it. That's really like the extent of what you need to do to radically shift your life. I've been doing this podcast this way for 3 years. I started the podcast in 2015. It was much more guest oriented, but this type of way I've been doing it. So it's been almost 3 years, right? I have hundreds of emails from people sharing the craziest, most transformative, miraculous stories about how they employed these techniques. I'm lucky in the sense that I get all of these external data points that help kind of support what I know to be true, right? That's lucky. And it's not completely uncreated by myself. It's just I have that benefit of seeing and hearing and witnessing so many of these incidents that would be called just impossible, right? Everything from, the IRS reducing massive penalties to nothing, to a person being so unlucky in love and then finding the love of their life, a couple of weeks after a reading or just writing in something and imagine all of these things build up over time that help me kind of look out and be like, oh, okay, well, I can't discard this. But if you don't have that luxury, what you do have is your personal kind of laboratory. I have no idea why I said laboratory. The fuck is this? Dexter's laboratory? My laboratory. Laboratory? Lab? You have your own internal playground, experimental ground to do this stuff. Do it. Don't just listen to a Yahoo like me talk about spiritual concepts that are going to be helpful for your life. That's pointless. It's useless. Employ this. Test it. Don't proselytize to anyone in your life, but see what you can change in your sphere of awareness. See what strings you can pull on to radically change your life. Be honest what you want in life. A lot of times we stay in situations because we feel that's our only choice. No, never is the case. This is your choice. It is your, decision to exist a certain way. Don't negate that, but you can shift yourself to wherever you want to be, geographically, physically, emotionally, spiritually, astrally. What other lees are there? I don't know. But you always have that innate ability to move yourself to where you desire to go. Don't give that up. Don't relinquish that, because that is going to be this crucial skill that we need to have if you're ultimately just individually responsible for your life, which you are. Don't give up that skill. Don't think you're going to be able to rely on other people, modalities, schools of thought. The beautiful thing about this is when you hear sometimes that, you could be like, wow, what an isolating and kind of like egocentric way of looking at the world. It's always you. It's always you. Yeah, sure. But it's not. I don't lose my interest in things like Milarepa or Buddhism or, any healing modality or philosophy that it's more engaging. You get to look at these things in a completely fresh light. Like, this is why one of the reasons that, I really like the Neville Goddard thing is like, this motherfucker really challenges people right out the gate to completely change their relationship with something like the Bible and spirituality and Christianity. He's like, these are not fucking people. You are not reading stories about things that happen to people. Most people who read the Bible or read a spiritual document think that these are literal things or maybe metaphors at best that they're kind of trying to convey. They don't look at it like a map, a psychological blueprint of a map for states of consciousness that you move through. That is not a commonly held. But when you pierce that veil and you understand that is an ability you have, you can look at anything in your life the same way you look at the Bible. The Bible is no more or less holy than anything else in your life. Your life is holy. Your life is a sacrament. Understand that. You can then look at anything from Harry Potter to fucking Game of Thrones to whatever. There will be deep spiritual messages because you are interfacing with them in your reality. And if that's the perspective you bring towards things, you will see the inherent kind of spirituality and magnificence of like kind of everything. How many times am I going to hit this fucking thing? How many times am I going to ram into this fucking stand I have for the thing? Nothing like banging into something repeatedly to pull you out of a state of consciousness. How about that? I'm sure there's a deeper resonance to that statement as well. But anyway, point is this. you're going to be fine. You have to believe you're going to be fine first and foremost, and then you can like just play around with this shit, right? I like to hear the stories of people radically changing their lives through imaginal acts, because it is such a simple yet profound activity to engage in. Its simplicity is what actually gets in people's way who are very logical and rigid in their way of thinking, because it sounds so stupid. It sounds like fantasy, magical, smoked too many drugs, did too many psychedelics type of nonsense stuff. Great. That's a feature. It's not a bug. Try it out. Try this shit out. And then you really get to home in on what you want in life. What would you are here to experience stuff. What that stuff is, I don't know. I know that we certainly seem to work on themes en masse, that we experience similar kind of waves of energy as we are collectively alive. And it makes sense if you think about, you being an omnipotent being and this kind of being your world. But like, you ultimately are going to determine that direction and your level of awareness as you go through it, right? So kind of a pep talk here. I don't want to overlook this Twitter shit. I mean, people, every other tweet is, what if Twitter goes away? He's going to ruin Twitter. So Twitter's not going to go away. He may ruin Twitter. I certainly don't think Elon Musk, as an individual, is capable of fixing Twitter if it needed to be fixed. It's just a place where information and consciousness gets exchanged that theoretically could be done on any platform. But I've always found Twitter to have a unique kind of place in the psycho-spiritual techno realm it lives in. And to me, that's fun. And you get to curate your, things you see. That's cool to me. But something else would emerge if Twitter is completely ruined. I don't think he has the ability to fully ruin it. I mean, I also don't know really what's involved in running a international tech conglomerate. But Twitter, I don't know. Elon seems like he's a little out of his depth at times, but he certainly has a way of harnessing the energy of money and the energy of capital and the energy of confidence in a way that has served him relatively well. And you would think that if he cares about something, like I do believe he cares about Twitter, he wouldn't want to destroy it or make it worse. The big debate right now, I don't know if anyone saw Chappelle's thing. Everyone knows what's going on with Kanye. Chappelle's SNL monologue. Is this the new frontier of divisiveness is free speech versus kind of hate speech? Everyone should have a right to say what they want to say. By the same token, everyone has a right to say, I don't like what you have to say. Should those opinions be expressed at all times? Probably not, but people are going to do it. I think it's important that when comedians who are typically looked at to be kind of critiquers in a fun way of reality start thinking that their free speech is somehow limited because of people's reactions to the things they say, that's misguided. That's wrong. That also shows on some level an insecurity about the things that they're saying about it. If you say something and it really hurts someone, but you're doing it from the purest spirit of like non-judgment and just like humor, you should not feel any certain way if someone gets mad at it, period. No one's canceling. This cancel culture idea is a meme. Who has been actually canceled? Like, you get put in jail, right? You do something illegal, you get put in jail. That's it. You're not really being canceled in any way. This is an abstract concept that means different things to different people, but usually just means that you're being asked to have the attention that's normally placed on you maybe not be there anymore. That's what being canceled is, but anyone who's ever been canceled wanted that experience on a deep level. They knew they were walking that path. There's a reason that I still talk about the things that I talk about, even if they're unpopular, whether it's finding humanity in Trump or not totally buying the narrative of vaccines being these wonderful boons and gifts from pharmaceutical companies for our well-being. Listen, I I know they're not always popular opinions, but I'm certainly not worried about expressing them or someone getting mad at me for expressing them. The best thing that comes out of those is a dialogue and a mutual understanding of lots of people's perspectives, whether you agree with them or not. That should be your goal. So this idea that you have to worry about being canceled or free speech is being taken away, like that's bullshit. And it's also just a sign of deep insecurity. Free speech also means the ability to say mean and hurtful and hateful things. That's inconvenient, but it is an aspect of free speech. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to engage with it. You don't have to be a slave to it. No one's forcing you to engage with any of this shit, right? Period. You've never had more choice in terms of what it is you want to listen to and what you want to watch and what you want to believe in. I am, an insane person. I choose to put my attention on the Miami Dolphins. That's a questionable decision, but that's my choice. I do get mad at it when they lose, but I'm not canceling the Miami Dolphins because they suck sometimes. They should have been canceled sometimes though, man. I've been through some rough fucking seasons. Jesus Christ. But just, I wanted to bring up what I see as an emerging thing. I listen to more podcasts now than I've ever listened to in my life. I listen to primarily comedy podcasts. That's what I listen to. Just comedians. I like to hear funny people talk about a variety of things. I think there is a critical observational quality and meta ability from a lot of comedians to kind of like see through the cracks of things and see through the illusion of what is being presented. And that to me is as valuable as any great spiritual teacher or saint will ever give you. So that's what I listen to. And I do hear this emerging theme, not from the people I listen to so much, but you do see it when Chappelle is talking about, it shouldn't be so hard to talk about things. It's not so hard to talk about things. Anti-Semitism is a tough one because these tropes of Jewish people controlling Hollywood or banks or money literally comes out of an anti-Semitic propaganda campaign. The reason there are so many bankers who are Jewish descent is it was seen as a dirty, unethical job. And when Jews were forced out of wherever they were living at the time, they were typically the only jobs they could get. So it's not like Jews just want to control the money. There's a lot of bankers and a lot of people in entertainment because those were the jobs that were available. So to turn around and say that, Jews control this, Jews control that, it's obviously not true. It doesn't mean there aren't Jewish people in power positions who act unethically, as there are in every subset of people, right? But again, these stereotypes aren't designed to limit free speech. They're not designed to cancel people. It's just if you're a public figure and you say some wild shit, be prepared for the blowback. Right? And hopefully you can get to the point where you can recognize whatever a stereotype is, it may be individually and anecdotally true at any given point, but it doesn't mean it's universally true. That's where we start to get dangerous. And these ideologies that turn into Nazism and fucking genocide, that's where they grow. I don't think we have to worry about that. I also don't think we're going to get blown up in a nuclear war. I don't think that's going to happen. I could be wrong. I was talking to Denise the other day. I was like, wow, I'll really feel stupid if we all blow up in a nuclear explosion. Because I don't think that's where we're headed. I don't think that's anyone's inherent desire is to blow up the world and ruin everything. It doesn't seem like what we came here for. But, just try to laugh, I guess, as much as possible over the next coming months. We will jump on a live stream for the patrons. It occurs to me some people might not even know what Patreon is. Patreon is a place where you can pay me money to get extra stuff related to whatever the fuck this is. That's it. So we do live streams. I'm thinking Friday? Can we do Friday night? That could be cool. I'll have the kids here, but they'll be asleep or they'll be in the other room. I could probably get a solid hour in. Get the music going, have some fun, smoke some weed on Twitch. Yeah, I think we'll do a live stream for patrons this Friday. What is today? God, November's flying by, huh? That'll be tomorrow, the 18th. I say Friday as though it's a distant day. It is literally tomorrow. We'll do a live stream there. Readings are open. I will be opening up the Christ consciousness readings. These are hour-long readings, which I only do once a year because an hour is a long fucking time. So those will be opening up probably after Thanksgiving, and those will be done in December, really around Christmas week. That time we'll be doing some Christ consciousness readings, so stay tuned for that. I know people ask for those specifically throughout the year, and I'm always like, oh, I only do them once a year. Those are fun. They involve astrology and tarot. They're recorded. You get sent the recording when you're done. That'll be fun. That's it. Woo! 50 minutes. Not bad. I guess I made up for the not getting it out on Monday. I am here. Don't worry. Things will be happening. Big shout out, by the way. Ned is sponsoring this show again. I'm not obligated to do an ad read this week, but I will do one nevertheless. They have some new cool products you'll be hearing about coming out. I mean, these guys are the fucking coolest. I basically took a year and a half off from podcasting. And, granted, when I started doing this again a couple of months ago, the numbers went right back to where they were, which is amazing. And I really thank you guys for that. Like, it is part of how I, creatively express myself in my career. And it is encouraging to know that a lot of people listen to this to the point where sponsors will actually pay me money to talk about their stuff. I just think the Ned people are the coolest fucking people. It's really badass that I reached out to them. I was like, hey, I'm doing it again. I know I just kind of stopped last time. Are you interested in sponsoring? They're like, yeah, we are. Same deal. So that's cool. So go check them out at helloned.com. I'm pretty sure the code SYNC is still active. You get 15% off whatever you order. I'll be highlighting some new products and things they're sending me, products, and talking about those in the coming weeks. If you are a weed company, get in touch. I would love. That's the only thing I want to do is sponsor things related to cannabis. That's it. That's my pledge to my listeners and to myself. I will only engage in sponsorships related to the plant of cannabis. That's it. So if you're one of those people and you want to get something going, hit me up. Other than that, things are pretty cool, man. I'm feeling pretty good. I hope you are too. I know things are crazy. No one is suggesting we're just on a smooth fucking patch of highway and everything's cool. We're in traffic. We're in crazy car crashes around us. There's shit going on, of course. But I do get the sense 2023, we will start seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel 2024 may be pretty magical. We'll see. We'll see. All right, that's it for this week. I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Take my thoughts with you. Just fine. Take my